Finish him! Fatality. Flawless victory.
These are ants, the most populous build, dominating the meta on nearly every server across the planet. They pack strength far beyond their size and boast near impenetrable swarm defenses. In the Animalia meta, no build coordinates are smoother than those of ants. The ant class is one of the most strategic and well-organized builds in the entire game. Unlike most animal builds in the meta, ants run on their own fully optimized operating system. At the top of the hierarchy are the queen, the workers, the soldiers, and in some species, even a dedicated slave caste. Small in size, but packing strength far beyond their weight class. With perfect teamwork and the devastating swarm tactics, they can take down opponents hundreds of times their size. Ants dominate nearly every map, from tropical rainforests and scorching deserts to your house and kitchen. Need a lightning-fast strike force, a max DPS suicide squad, or a 24/7 resource-gathering empire that never gets tired? Ants are built for that. Here are the stats for the ant class. This build centers on overwhelming numbers, flawless teamwork, and unparalleled tactical organization. They're a fully optimized army with top-tier offense, defense, and resource-gathering efficiency. They boast one of the highest lifting power stats in the game. Ants can carry loads dozens of times their body weight while moving in pixel-perfect formation. Offense? Their tiny size has never been a weakness. When the swarm is deployed, they can overwhelm almost any target, stacking damage over time and triggering a loss of control effect purely from sheer numbers. Specialized builds like fire ants or army ants even unlock burn damage, lockbite mechanics, or kamikaze attacks. On defense, ants don't have hard armor like beetles, but compensate with multi-layer body shields that make it extremely difficult to reach key units, like the queen or eggs. So overall, teamwork, S+, organization, S+, offense, A, defense, B+, adaptability, off the charts. Ants are the natural counter to any build that crumbles under swarm tactics and overwhelming numbers. Now, I'm going to rank the most overpowered ant builds. First, Leafcutter Ant, the PvE farming grandmasters. They don't eat the leaves directly, using them to grow fungus, the colony's only food source. This build operates like a supply chain, comprising leafcutters, transporters, fungus gardeners, and soldier guards. A significant strength is their crystal-clear labor hierarchy, which optimizes resources like a perfectly tuned factory. Weakness? Total dependence on leaves and fungus. If that system collapses, the whole colony falls apart fast. Therefore, it isn't ranked in F tier, but rather in S tier. Little Black Ant. Quantity over quality swarm tactics. They are the omnivore build. Crumbs, insect carcasses, sap anything goes. Relies on mass production to hold fights, but DPS is too low to bring down tanky targets. Strength. Extremely adaptable to many maps. Fast respawn rate provides recovery to offset damage taken during enemy assaults. No special defenses, vulnerable to mass wipeouts. With those characteristics, I ranked it in the C tier. Next, Pavement Ant. They scavenge dropped food, quick skirmishes, and spawn on different maps like sidewalks, driveways, and wall cracks. They can swarm to repel other ants, but don't always win. With near-endless human-provided food sources, they expand territory quickly. Also well adapted to harsh concrete and asphalt heat. Weakness. High loss rate to house spiders and cockroaches. Therefore, I won't place them in S tier. The Pavement Ant is ranked in B tier. Carpenter ant has big, powerful jaws that can drill into solid wood. For humans, they're silent destroyers, capable of wrecking wooden structures after just a few patch cycles without you noticing. Fighting on a wooden base? Huge advantage. A wooden nest is nearly impenetrable to most small predators. But once forced to fight outside that base, they lose most of their terrain advantage and become easier to pick off. Weaver ant, high ground architects, and close-range snipers. They use larval silk to sew leaves into strong, hanging nests. Therefore, they have an elevation advantage, swarm downward in numbers, a moving wall of fire. In tropical forests, they're practically a zone boss, forcing most intruders to retreat instantly. Weakness: vulnerable to predators with strong climbing skills or leaf-cutting abilities. So, I rank it in A tier. Besides, there is the Dough-Tea Specialist build. It's Fire Ant! Their bites and stings are both burning and venomous, draining HP over time. They've also unlocked the Living Raft skill, linking bodies together into floating platforms, surviving floods, and expanding territory with ease. Counter: extended hot dry biomes, where water is scarce and food supplies run thin. With such overwhelming advantages, this build is rightfully ranked in S tier. They rely entirely on stealth and their ultra-small size to borrow the map without anyone noticing. This build infiltrates kitchens or damp zones, looting tiny scraps of food that bigger predators overlook. The semi-transparent exoskeleton makes them nearly invisible in bright environments. Weakness: extremely low DPS, can't damage larger targets. Needs moist environments, dries out, and slows down in arid areas. Ghost Ant is ranked in B tier. In the Ant class, some builds are just fun to play but not to win, and they're ranked in D tier. It is a Jumping Ant. Maxed out vertical mobility, their leaping ability lets them dodge and approach from unusual angles. Main tactic: hit and run harassment before opponents can retaliate. Good for hunting small insects or reaching hard to access food spots. Weakness: no real teamwork, the Ant class's biggest strength. Low HP, mid DPS, easily overwhelmed by numbers. Slave-making ants are the strategic mind control mains. They raid other colonies, stealing larvae to raise as workers for their own. This slashes internal labor costs, letting the colony focus purely on expansion and combat. In both PvP and PvE, this build is nearly self-sustaining, strong on defense, with plenty of offensive power. Weakness: entirely dependent on raiding. If the map lacks suitable targets, they lose momentum fast and can get snowballed in return. Pharaoh ants: parasites builds, living inside human structures to avoid bad weather and exploit abundant food. Operates in hidden spaces, focusing on rapid reproduction to claim territory before detection. Multi-queen, distributed colony systems make them hard to wipe out completely. Weakness: utterly dependent on indoor maps, loses edge outdoors. Easily countered by insecticides and human cleaning measures. So, I rank it in C tier. Honeypot ant, the away-from-keyboard storage unit, turns its body into a living food tank, storing massive amounts of nectar for the colony. In resource-scarce maps, it's a lifesaver for the team. In PvP, they are almost entirely useless, huge hitbox, slow movement, zero attack power. They just wait and hope that the tank team arrives before they get picked off. This one's the ultimate noob build, 100% worthy of the weakest ant spot in F tier. And finally, the final boss of the ant class, straight into S tier. Army Ant, the most powerful mobile army in the Ant server. Instead of building permanent nests, they form living fortresses out of their bodies, then march forward like a rolling wave of death. In PvP, their continuous wave attack strategy wipes out everything from insects and reptiles to baby birds. They rarely fight one-on-one. They swarm in numbers, shredding their target in seconds. The trade-off? This build needs a massive daily food supply just to keep the army running. Too OP, the army ant truly deserves the crown. Elephants might just be the tankiest build in the entire meta, sporting a massive HP pool and wide-range AoE attacks that can flatten trees like they're grass. But even raid bosses have their counters. First up, lions. A single lion can't do much against a full-grown elephant, but when they queue up in a 10-20 player team comp, they can slowly chip away, focusing their DPS on weaker targets like elephant calves. That teamwork combo makes lions one of the most dangerous soft counters. Next, hyenas. At first glance, they look like they have no business going up against a heavyweight tank like the elephant. They rarely engage adults head-on instead. They target calves, the weakest link in the herd. They rarely engage adults head-on instead. They target calves, the weakest link in the herd. With their signature ability, Persistence Hunt, they'll stalk for hours, waiting until a calf is separated or the herd's formation breaks down. Hyenas aren't a hard counter, but they're predators that thrive on exploiting bugs in the elephant's defense system. And finally, of course, humans. This is the hard counter, full stop. By unlocking weapons, traps, and advanced tactics, humans can wipe out an entire herd in just a few encounters. Looks like the elephant class has gotten a little too unbalanced. The devs just dropped a new update to rework the entire system. The African bush elephant has always been a true raid boss, gigantic size, with insane map-breaking damage. Slight nerfs to HP and tusk damage to keep it from completely dominating the savanna meta. The straight-tusked elephant is too busted back in the Ice Age, with massive size and tusks so long they basically glitched the hitbox. The devs deleted it from the server ages ago, but if it ever comes back, its mobility will definitely need to be nerfed. Next, the Colombian mammoth will get a buff to fur defense to bring it more in line with its Ice Age competitors. Asian elephant is the all-rounder build, smaller than the African variant, but with the unlockable skill, Tameable. Gets a light buff to social bond and intelligence to keep it competitive. Woolly mammoth is the classic tank of the frozen maps. Thick fur armor plus curved tusks made it an excellent predator counter. Unfortunately, thanks to the server warming update, its biome gradually disappeared, a brutal hard nerf the devs didn't even plan. Steppe mammoth is too specialized for giant tundra maps, so the devs are leaving it untouched. Still a niche pick, but a monstrous one when it fits the terrain. Next up, the African forest elephant. Now buffed with better silent move and improved camouflage under dense canopy, turning it into a gorilla-style pick. Mastodon receives a buff to tusk angle, improving its overall utility. Dwarf mammoth is an island survivor that lasted surprisingly long. Heavy nerfs to size removed its intimidation factor, but stamina got buffed to help it cope with low-resource island maps. American Mastodon's new patch will add extra cold resistance, but it still struggles to escape the shadow of the mammoth builds. Mediterranean dwarf elephant. Size got nerfed so hard, it lost all intimidation value, leaving it stuck in an island niche survival. Dev is considering buffs to herd tactics to make it less irrelevant. Finally is Deinotherium. A unique build with those downward tusks, but low combat effectiveness kept it from shining. Now buffed with increased grappling damage and the new root pull skill to exploit underground food sources. Overall, nerf the overpowered builds like bush elephant. Buff utility and niche roles for underused picks like forest elephant, mastodon, and Deinotherium. Keep the meta diverse instead of letting just a few tank builds rule everything. Elephant mains your server just got patched. Adapt or get benched from the meta.